They told him it couldn't be done. They scoffed at the idea that an unpolished farm boy with grease on his hands and sawdust in his lungs could ever reshape the world. But Henry Ford didn't come to ask for permission. He came to build. He didn't wait for conditions to be right or for society to approve of his dream. He faced the same winds of doubt, the same walls of resistance, the same storms of uncertainty that every great builder must face. But he faced them differently. Where others saw limitations, he saw raw material. Where others saw barriers, he saw blueprints. Where others folded, he forged. And that is the beginning of everything, because wealth, real wealth, isn't born from comfort. It doesn't grow in the gardens of convenience. It is hammered out in the furnace of defiance, in the relentless pursuit of something better, something bigger, something built with your own hands. Excellence is not inherited. It is demanded every day by those willing to put their soul on the line for it. Henry Ford once said, "There is no man living who isn't capable of doing more than he thinks he can do." And in that one sentence, he exposed the greatest lie of mediocrity, that we are only as capable as our present results. No, you are not your job title. You are not your bank account. You are not your past failures or your family's ceiling. You are the one who can break the cycle. You are the one who can build the machine. You are the one who can forge the empire, but only if you demand it from yourself. Every single day. The pursuit of excellence isn't about doing what's easy. It's about doing what's necessary. It's about waking up with a war cry in your mind and steel in your bones. It's about refusing to die ordinary, refusing to live by someone else's blueprint, refusing to look back one day and realize you had the tools, but never used them. Ford didn't revolutionize the world because he chased fame. He wasn't addicted to applause. He was obsessed with function, with impact, with solving a problem so completely that the world couldn't go back to the way it was before. He turned the automobile from a luxury into a necessity, from a toy for the elite into a tool for every working man and woman. Not because he was a mechanic, but because he was a visionary. A visionary with dirt under his nails and a fire that couldn't be extinguished. And now, the torch is in your hands. You have been chosen by time, by circumstance, by the impossible odds around you, to decide. Will you merely exist, or will you build something that outlives you? You are not here to survive. You are here to advance. To create a reality so powerful, so refined, so relentlessly excellent, that it becomes your wealth mandate, a standard so high the world can't ignore it. But that journey starts not with money, not with tools, not even with opportunity. It starts with mindset. Mindset is the furnace, the engine, the silent, raging storm behind every success story that ever mattered. Ford didn't wait for confidence. He built conviction. There is a difference. Confidence is fleeting, a mood, but conviction, that's a decision. A decision that says, I don't care if no one believes in me. I believe in me enough for everyone. Conviction is what drove him to tear apart a gasoline engine over and over until it obeyed. It's what made him risk everything, again and again, when each previous company collapsed. It's what made him declare that a man's real education doesn't come from books alone, but from struggle, from practice, from daring to do. Your mindset must be militant. It must be so sharp, so strong, that it cuts through excuses like a blade through silk. You cannot afford the luxury of small thoughts anymore. Not if you want to lead. Not if you want to build. Not if you want to honor the gift of your life. With output. There will be days when your strength fades. When the voices around you say, why bother? Who do you think you are? It's already been done. And those days will test the very steel of your character. But if your mind is disciplined, not just motivated, not just inspired, but disciplined, you will not bend. Because mindset is the workshop where excellence is first forged, and belief is the fuel. You cannot outbuild your belief. You cannot outrun your own inner voice. Henry Ford understood this better than anyone. He said it clearly. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. That is not a slogan. That is a law of human performance. If you carry doubt like a parasite inside you, it will drain every plan, every risk, every act of courage you try to birth. But if you feed belief like a lion, it will become your greatest asset, one that hunts down opportunity, seizes it by the throat, and drags it into reality. You don't need permission to believe. You don't need a reason. You choose it. You decide it, and once you do, everything changes. The world bends to those who believe with intensity, who move with certainty, who command from within before they conquer from without. But belief alone isn't enough. It must be fused with clarity. Clarity of purpose, clarity of vision, clarity of what exactly you're building and why. Ford didn't wake up to get rich. He woke up to solve problems, to build systems, to democratize opportunity through production. He saw beyond the noise, beyond the distractions. He saw clear, and in a world obsessed with hustle, with noise, with speed, clarity is a superpower. Because when you are clear, you become unstoppable. You don't hesitate. You don't wander. You move like a freight train, with precision, with momentum, with destiny. So many drown in the waters of more ideas, more opinions, more distractions. But Ford simplified everything. He focused. He refined. He eliminated the unnecessary. You must do the same. Clarity is not a gift. It is a discipline. You sit down. You think deeply. You strip away the fluff. You decide, this is what I will build. This is what I will master. This is the life I am designing. And then you move, not someday. Not when the economy settles. Not when you feel ready. Now. Right now. Because purpose isn't found in theory. It's built in action. You must build a vision so clear, it haunts you. So vivid, it wakes you up in the night. So sharp, it pierces through laziness, self-doubt, and every excuse disguised as logic. Ford didn't have a vision to impress investors. He had a vision that possessed him, that wrapped itself around every cell in his body and demanded to be born. That is the kind of purpose that changes history. He envisioned a world where every man, not just the elite, could move freely, where mobility meant opportunity. He saw factories not as prisons of labor, but as cathedrals of productivity, where a working man could stand with pride and say, I made this. He didn't dream of a car. He dreamed of freedom. And that's why it worked. That's why it lasted. Because real purpose isn't about what. It's about why. You can chase money, but money runs fast. You can chase applause, but applause fades. But if you chase purpose, real world-altering purpose, the world will chase you. People followed Ford not because he was charismatic, but because he had clarity of purpose. He knew what he was doing, and he meant it. That's the foundation of leadership. But before you can lead anyone else, you must first lead yourself. You must become your own commander, your own fire starter, your own executioner of laziness, fear, and mediocrity. And that takes discipline, not the kind that shows up when it's convenient, the kind that arrives every day like clockwork, cold, focused, relentless. Ford didn't build his empire through bursts of passion. He built it through systems, through habits, through rituals that refused to tolerate inconsistency. He once said, chop your own wood, and it will warm you twice. That wasn't just about hard work. It was about discipline, the self-reliance, the repetition, the mastery of small things that forge the big ones. Discipline is the quiet twin of success. It doesn't speak. It doesn't brag. It doesn't post on social media, but it builds. Every single day. And you must become a builder of rituals, of routines that sharpen your edge and annihilate your distractions, that make your excellence. inevitable. You don't rise to wealth. You discipline your way there. Discipline doesn't care how you feel. It only asks, did you show up? Did you execute? Did you advance? That's what separates the visionary from the daydreamer, the industrialist from the hobbyist, the titan from the tourist. You don't need motivation. You need marching orders from yourself every morning, because when discipline aligns with belief, with purpose, with vision, what you build becomes unshakable, but still all the clarity. And belief in the world mean nothing without this next force, action, brutal, relentless, intelligent action. Ford was not an academic. He didn't spend decades in libraries theorizing. He got his hands dirty. He failed publicly. He started companies that collapsed, but he kept moving. He didn't wait for the perfect idea. He refined the imperfect ones until they ran like clockwork. He didn't overthink. He overbuilt, because the universe doesn't reward potential. It rewards proof. You can't think your way to wealth. You can't visualize your way to legacy. You build it. You sweat it. You bleed for it. And every single action you take, or refuse to take, moves you closer or farther from the mandate that was etched into your DNA. The moment you decided you were made for more, you cannot afford delay. You cannot afford perfectionism. You cannot afford to wait for a green light from people who never built anything. Start with what you have. Start where you are, because greatness doesn't require the perfect environment. It requires the decision to begin. Ford built his first car in a shed, not a lab, not a skyscraper. A shed. That's all he had. What's your excuse? The world is filled with thinkers, talkers, dreamers. But the future? It belongs to builders. And if you want to lead, truly lead, not just manage people or look important, but lead with impact, then you must learn to carry weight. Real leadership is not about being in charge. It's about taking responsibility, responsibility, for the vision, for the people, for the process, for the outcome. Ford took responsibility for everything, from the bolts on the factory floor to the ideas in the boardroom. He didn't hide behind committees. He decided. He moved. He led. And that leadership, it created wealth, not just for himself, but for thousands. That's the power of leadership, right? It multiplies impact. It creates an ecosystem of excellence where others can rise. And that, right there, is part of your mandate. To become so excellent, so competent, so fiercely valuable that your very existence creates opportunity for others. That's not pressure. That's privilege. You have been given breath, time, potential. Use it to lead. Led with clarity. Lead with action. Lead with discipline so unshakable that people can't help but follow. But in your pursuit, do not forget the laws of investment, because everything you build will only grow if you invest wisely. Investment is not just about money. That's the mistake the masses make. They chase capital without understanding that the greatest fortunes are built by those who know how to invest in what truly compounds. Ford didn't just invest in machines. He invested in process, in people, in principles. He invested in efficiency, not noise, in function, not vanity, in systems that ran even when he wasn't in the room. That's why his wealth outlived him. That's why his name still opens doors in cities he never stepped foot in, because what you invest in becomes your empire. So ask yourself right now, where are you placing your attention? Your time? Your effort? Are you investing in distractions or in discipline? Are you feeding habits that multiply or habits that devour your future? Are you building assets, skills, systems, relationships, vision, or liabilities dressed up as comfort? Your life is your portfolio, and you are either compounding greatness or accumulating regret. Henry Ford didn't get rich from a single invention. He became a legend because he built a machine of momentum. A system that turned labor into leverage, time into transformation, action into exponential return. You want wealth? Invest in building something that scales without you. Something that lives beyond the grind. Something that produces even while you rest. That's not fantasy. That's principle. But hear this, with every investment comes resistance. Because no matter how clear your vision, how powerful your mindset, how focused your action, you will be tested. The market will test you. The doubters will test you. Time itself will test you. And when that moment comes, not if, but when, you must invoke the one force that separates the titan from the tourist. Resilience. Ford faced public humiliation, legal battles, strikes, scandals, personal loss, economic collapse, but he never collapsed with it, because resilience is not about avoiding pain. It's about refusing to bow to it. It's about standing when every instinct tells you to fold. About building through the burn. About using adversity not as a signal to stop, but as fuel to expand. Every successful entrepreneur, every builder of dynasties, has scars. What matters is whether you hide them or honor them. Ford didn't hide his failures. He studied them. He dissected them. He learned from them because he understood what the greats always do. That failure is feedback. That loss is education in disguise. That hardship is the tuition of mastery. You must learn constantly, aggressively, with humility and hunger. Because if you stop learning, you start dying. Ford said, anyone who stops learning is old, whether at 20 or 80. Anyone who keeps learning stays young. Learning is your longevity, your edge, your evolution. You cannot afford to think you've arrived. You haven't. None of us have. The world is moving, adapting, upgrading, and you must move faster. Read, watch, listen, execute. Stay a student. Not of theory, but of reality. Because in learning, you find leverage. And in gratitude, you find power. Yes, power. Gratitude is not weakness. It is not softness. It is the most fierce mental state you can hold. Because a grateful mind is clear. It is stable. It is immune to panic, comparison, and entitlement. Ford never forgot his roots. He didn't resent his early struggles. He honored them. The late nights in barns, the failed attempts, the rejections. He stayed connected to the very people he wanted to serve, the working class. That's why they trusted him. That's why they followed him. He never floated above. He stood among. Gratitude keeps you human. It makes sure that your climb doesn't corrupt your character, that your ambition doesn't amputate your empathy. You can be fierce and still grateful. You can be relentless and still grounded. You can want more and still honor what got you here, because the final test of a builder is not just power, it's adaptability. Ford's story is not just a tale of invention. It's a masterclass in reinvention. The Model T wasn't his first attempt. The assembly line wasn't his first idea. He iterated. He adapted. He challenged his own assumptions, even when they were already profitable. He let go of worked to build what worked better. And you must do the same. Adaptability is the hidden trait of every great empire. Because no market, no era, no model stays the same forever. But those who adapt, they survive, they thrive, they dominate. You must be willing to burn your old plans to build the next ones. To evolve faster than your comfort zone. To upgrade your operating system, not once, but always. This world doesn't owe you stability, but it rewards those who move like water, strong, relentless, and fluid. Your ability to shift, to pivot, to refine without ego. That is your survival. That is your competitive edge. So now, here you stand, mindset sharpened, Belief ignited, vision burning, discipline formed, actions in motion, leadership demanded, investments placed, resilience tested, learning embraced, gratitude rooted, adaptability unlocked. There is only one thing left: your mandate. Your mandate is not a suggestion. It is not a motivational quote to hang on the wall. It is not a maybe, a someday, or a slogan you recite in the mirror. It is a command, a sacred contract between your potential and your performance, between what you could do and what you must do. You were not put on this earth to blend in. You were not given breath, thought, blood, and willpower just to exist in someone else's system. You were born to build, to carve your name into the bedrock of history with results. Ford didn't wait for his moment. He created it. He didn't inherit a throne. He forged one with bolts, fire, and grit. And he sat on it not as a king of men, but as a servant of vision. And now your moment is here, not tomorrow, not when the economy changes, not when everyone else is ready. Now. Now is the only time that has ever belonged to builders. Right now, you are breathing the same air, standing on the same earth, facing the same odds that every empire maker once faced. The question is, will you rise? Will you let fear steal your fire? Or will you grip the wheel of destiny, like Ford gripped that first wrench, with blistered hands and unwavering faith? Will you shape this era with your excellence? Because here's the truth no one wants to say out loud. Most people are waiting to be chosen. They wait for someone to tap them on the shoulder and say, "It's your turn." They wait for validation, for safety, for clarity that never comes. But Ford didn't wait to be chosen. He chose himself. And that's what wealth builders do. They choose themselves long before anyone else believes. They walk into the unknown and hammer the road as they go. They fall. They bleed. They build anyway. That is your mandate. To build anyway. To lead when no one's watching. To believe when the numbers don't make sense. To move when the map is incomplete. To act, not in arrogance, but in service to something bigger than comfort. Excellence is not a goal. It is a way of life, a standard you refuse to negotiate, a code you refuse to violate, a voice inside that says, "Not like that." Better. You carry the hammer now. You write the blueprint. You lay the bricks. And every day, the world will ask, "What are you building?" Let your life be the answer. Let your results echo louder than your doubts. Let your product, your service, your system, your solution become your monument, not to ego, but to effort, not to pride, but to principle. That is how you honor Ford's legacy, not with nostalgia, but with action, with outcome, with an empire built not just of machines, but of meaning. Because when all is said and done, when the factories go quiet and the numbers fade, what you built will still stand if it was built with excellence. You are not average. You are not small. You are not invisible. You are a force. You are an engine. You are a mandate in motion. So now, go. Build the thing. Refuse the excuse. Sharpen the discipline. Multiply the vision. Lead like your legacy depends on it, because it does. This is your relentless pursuit of excellence. This is your wealth mandate. This is your moment. Don't survive it. Dominate it.